What a week. What a week. I love summing up the week because it's always so crazy. And when you start the week, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about for the show. And then they just keep giving. The news keeps giving. Things keep giving. And there's so much to talk about this week. First and foremost, Superman is gay. Southwest Airline blames Biden for weather delays. The Daily Wire broke some really, really shocking news. And first, as shocking as those things are, that's not even what I'm going to start with today. I'm going to start with the fact that Joe Rogan, a comedian cage fighter, basically completely handled CNN for 3 hours for the world to see. Now, that is some crazy, crazy stuff. For those of you who don't know, Joe Rogan is the most popular podcast in the entire world. He had on Sanjay Gupta, who is CNN's head medical advisor. And they were going to talk about a few things going on with things that I actually can't talk about on Facebook. I don't think I can mention the name. So if you could, go over like Ben Davies, actor on YouTube. You could also search Ben Davies off script. Any of that stuff will probably take you to the YouTube page. Please like that, because once you do, we'll be able to stream there. And I can talk about more things on YouTube than I actually can on Facebook. And I would really, really appreciate that. But basically, Joe Rogan, most popular podcast in the world. He has on the head medical advisor from CNN, and they had this great 3-hour discussion. I'm going to play you a couple clips. Just to warn you, there's one word that's bleeped out. So, but I kind of had to keep it in there because it's a video. But you can't hear it. But I just heads up in case that's going to bother some people. This is awesome. Check it out.
You're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it winning the Nobel Prize in 2015.
Yeah.
A drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is.
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem, that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude.
I mean, what did they say?
They lied and said I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking it, the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously. You got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication.
Okay. It's so good because first, Joe Rogan's talking to him about all these facts about this horse dewormer that people were taking to treat a disease that I can't talk about. And the fact that the news was just claiming that it was just that. Like this horse dewormer, that's actually what it was, which, obviously it wasn't, even though it's used for different things. Like, dogs get ibuprofen, for instance, all these things. Anyway, so he's just taking him to task. And this is the head medical advisor of CNN. And he's just like, well, you're going too fast. Like, no. Does it bother you that they lied? That they lied to the millions of viewers for weeks and weeks and weeks about what this guy was doing? This is a very big influencer on the internet and on podcasts. A lot of people listen to the Joe Rogan Experience. And he documented the fact that he got sick from a disease that I can't talk about on Facebook, and he recovered in like 24 hours from taking this horse dewormer. So it was just hilarious to see this guy be like, oh, I don't know. We're going really fast. Why do you want me to talk about this? Like, did it bother you as a medical expert, who's supposed to do no harm? Is like your first swearing in of being, doctor or scientist or whatever. Does it bother you that this network had been saying that this is horse dewormer? And he's like, and then Joe Rogan takes him to task. It's fantastic. Check it out.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on the ledger.
Before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
No, they were not happy that you got sick or whatever. It's so great because he's like, oh, I don't know why they would have said that. It's weird. They were saying it all the time. You're the head medical advisor. Well, how would you not ask the question of, guys, why are we saying this? Like, this drug has been given to people to treat other diseases around the world for a long time. The person that invented it was up for the Nobel Prize. It's it's so great to see just the narrative being spun. I always talk about the narrative because this thing, this podcast is being off script, because there is a very specific script of things you're supposed to say. But the problem is, this guy, obviously they're pushing one story, and you'll ignore different things or misrepresent other things to keep the viewers on track with what they're trying to sell, the story they're trying to get you to believe. And it's just great to see someone like Joe Rogan actually take someone to task like this. I encourage you to watch the full interview. Really fun stuff. Wish I could talk more about it, but I don't want to get flagged on YouTube. So we're just going to keep going. It's not going to keep going. Our Southwest Airlines. Or now I guess they will. But if you remember this week, there was thousands of airlines that just magically stopped. And it was funny because you could see a series of events played out in front of you when people get in trouble for being cowards. Okay? There's a few, so just to people that don't know this story, there was a few vaccine mandates that were being advised, and because of that, Southwest Airlines allegedly were going to do vaccine mandates for their employees, or I don't think that's alleged. I think we're pretty sure that they were doing this for their other employees, and then allegedly there was like a sick out where all these employees refused to go to work because of that there was massive delays. This is the cost of being a coward. Okay. This is the series of events that happens when you are being a coward, when you do not believe something and you do it anyway because it seems easier at the time, and it never is. This is even in the biblical sense. I mean, it may seem like doing the right thing will seem more difficult at the time, but in the long run, there is a reward for you that is well worth the temporary pain you're going through. So, first, what happens with Southwest Airlines is the fact that the higher up CEOs, I'm not exactly sure who would make the call on this, caved. They caved to basically social pressure or kind of hierarchical pressure, because there was not a federal mandate that was thrown down. Certain companies like the Daily Wire, for instance, were like, hey, we're not going to follow this. If you're actually going to try to enforce this thing, we're going to fight you on it. So first they caved. That's the first thing you do if you're a coward. You cave. Then reality punches you back in the face. Okay, and that was once you cave, there's always a reason. There's always a cost to you caving, and the cost was people being like, "A, I'm not going to work for this. I'm not going to be a part of this," and they walk. B, they lost a ton of money, and people are like, well, I don't want to support people who are letting their employees, forcing them out because they won't adhere to this certain mandate. And then plus, the people walking out themselves, there's a big cost to that. Then what happens when, now I have actual pressure and I have something that I'm going to lose now. Well, what do? Like, what if it's your fault and you're the one that made the decision? Next thing you do is you lie. And so apparently they were trying to send out releases or press releases saying that this was all because of weather. Magic weather that only affected one airline. So then you lied. You dig yourself in a hole. Now you're embarrassed. It looks terrible. And now the CEO has to go on and do the final thing that you do when you are a coward and you bend the knee and then you face reality and you get punched in the face. You have to go blame someone. Check this out.
I've never been in favor of corporations imposing that kind of a mandate. I'm not in favor of that. Never have been. But the executive order from President Biden mandates that all federal employees and then all federal contractors, which covers all the major airlines, have to have a mandate, a vaccine in place by December the 8th. So we're working through that.
Here's the thing. He didn't have to do it. He really didn't. Not every airline was doing this. Delta even came out recently and said they're not doing it. Now he's going to walk it back and they're like, oh, we're not actually mandating this. Sorry, guys. See, we weren't just caving. It wasn't because there was actual blowback and we didn't lie and we had to blame someone else. You lose credibility, and a lot of people are maybe not even going to give them their business and from here on out just because of the stance that they took and how weak it is. And it's like, oh, and he didn't say that from the beginning. He wasn't like, hey, we're doing this because we're being forced to, or we're going to blame it on the weather. You're not going to push back, because I guarantee you, if he came out and said, we do not, like he said here, we're not okay with this. We're going to fight it, similar to what the Daily Wire did. Then there would have been public support, and I would guess maybe a lot of people that wouldn't normally fly with Southwest Airlines, maybe they would have gone with Southwest Airlines. Sometimes there's a reward for doing the right thing and being courageous, and that could have been one of them. Like I said, there is a cost to lying and covering up things. There's a next story that I want to talk about that is very, very important. Sorry to bring us down just a tad, and I have to be careful with the way that I talk about this story because, there are certain rules on YouTube and Facebook, a lot of times for very good reasons. But this is a pretty graphic story. It's not a happy story. It's not a story that it's a story that should have been talked about, and it should be wall-to-wall coverage on every single network. You know, we get fed different stories that are so anecdotal and blown up out of proportion. You know, like you'll get stories just because they're, you know, it's just like the right message at the right time. They want to blow this up, and then certain stories they'll suppress. I know I talked about Carlton Sieb, the gay football player with the Oakland Raiders, comes out as gay. Media buzz, this is great. Then all of a sudden he disappears before the first week of football and makes probably the most important play that entire week, basically wins the game for the Raiders in this opener. And it was a fantastic play. Crickets from the media, turns out, a week before that. They found out that, oh, this guy is gay, but he's also conservative and liked a lot of conservative memes. And so he's like, well, he's not the kind of gay that we want to like promote. There's a very, it's never the characteristic that they claim to be propping up. Like, oh, we're going to support, you know, these people or those people or this characteristic. They don't care about that at all. They care about the narrative. They care about people that are on script. They care about this one story they're trying to promote. And because of that, the news will purposely not cover certain things or misrepresent, which is what happened to Joe Rogan, other things. This is incredibly frustrating for me because it shouldn't be all of our jobs to sift through all the madness that like happens every single week to talk about something. Fortunately, there are some people who are speaking up. You remember the episode of Off Script a couple of weeks ago talking about Matt Walsh going to Virginia to speak at this school board meeting and talk about the transgender bathroom issues that have been popping up, which was hilarious. Please go watch that episode. Matt Walsh is a hero. He became a resident of Virginia because they were going to ban him from being able to speak at this school board meeting. They really wanted him out. And now we can see why they were trying so hard to make sure that no one spoke up at this, you know, local school board meeting. It was because there was something to hide. Because worse, they were not just cowards. They were ideologically driven cowards. Like, it wasn't like the Southwest Airlines guys like, I just want to get in trouble. I don't want to get a fine from the government. I don't want to lose a contract or whatever. So I'm just going to, you know, cave without having any real resistance. Because I'm not even sure these mandates are federally legal right now. Sorry. Yeah, he wasn't even sure if these were federally legal or whatever. And he did it anyway. Okay, like that's one thing, but knowingly being a coward and for a specific ideological reason, not because you're afraid of losing something, that is a whole different level. And the story that broke was a Daily Wire exclusive at Loudoun County. You got to check this one out. So this story is absolutely shocking. This is the, please go to dailywire.com. You can search this story. This is Loudoun County schools try to conceal sexual assault against daughter in bathroom, father says. Now, I don't have the clip of this father, but this was pretty tragic. There was this video originally went wild because they were making fun of these parents freaking out that they're going to teach inclusion and diversity in the schools. Like, can you imagine these white parents getting so mad that we're going to focus on like Pride Month or, you know, the sins of the white Americans and things that Americans that did wrong in the past? Can you believe these parents are so up in arms they're going to fight police officers like live on camera at a school board meeting, get kicked out, and they were making fun of this father? Well, through some investigation, you know, typical journalism, what would have happened is, wow, this guy freaked out. This is a big video that went out. Maybe I should ask him, I don't know, why? Why did you lose it at a local school board meeting, right? And if they did, they probably would have found this out, okay? The crazy part about this is that he claimed, and that has now been verified through a rape kit, that his daughter had been, I don't even know what I can say. Okay, so assaulted violently, sexually in a bathroom at the school, and confirmed by a police rape kit. Okay, so that was the story. The reason why they didn't want to talk about it, and the reason why he got so riled up at the school board meetings, was because they were talking about transgender bathrooms, and allegedly he claims. The reason why it's such a big deal is because allegedly he claims that his daughter, the perpetrator of this crime, was a transgender individual who felt like, you know, he was trapped in a woman's body, if that makes sense, and wore a skirt that day and went to school in the bathroom. It gets worse. So the school knew this, covered it up, said, okay, we're going to discipline the person. We're going to send him to a different school, a different part of the county. Goes there. It happens again to another person. So they were cowards. They were ideologically driven. Then they, you know, then reality punched back. This horrible thing happened. They they lied and like, well, we'll move somewhere else. And then it happened again. Like there's a real consequence to this. It happened to someone else. They didn't want to face the consequences. So they lied. And now they're even covering it up. So then at the school board meeting, they were saying that there was no examples of people being assaulted or having any issues with the bathrooms. And that's when this father lost it, because his daughter had literally gone through this and it happened again. And he was losing it on these school board meetings, these school board members, and was arrested and kicked out. How crazy is that? Like, this is a slippery slope of, I'm going to be a coward here. I'm going to bend the knee, and then I'm going to lie. I'm going to blame someone else. It's never really my fault. I'm going to cover it up. I hope every single one of these school board members are arrested. Like, none of them should be in a position like that and in power, because it didn't even saw a real-world example of real consequences of this, trying to cover it up with the other person at this other school. It's crazy. I really, really, really encourage you to go check out this story. It's harrowing. It's wild. And now even the Washington Post is having to cover this. Thank goodness, because the story broke and went so viral. But this is why we do have to talk about these things, and we do have to get these things out in the open, because these kind of events should never, ever, ever, ever happen. And when they do, because we live in a fallen world where bad things do happen, you cannot cover it up because you are afraid, because you have an ideologically driven reason to, because if you pawn it off to somewhere else, you just punt it to a different school. That problem does not go away, clearly, and an innocent person pays the price for it. That can't happen. Now, to lighten things up, to finish out this crazy week, a lot of people are going to say this is not important. This is very important. I want to let you know that now Superman is very, very, very gay. Yes, Superman is now apparently gay. I want to tell you why this matters. This is the new comic book series has Superman gay, and whenever I bring up changing characters or changing the race or the sex, it's never ever ever that I don't want a character or care if a character has those characteristics. Like that means nothing, right? It's when you change one intentionally. Like it's never just like, hey, it'd be fun, let's just like put this character in this situation. And a lot of people say, oh no, it was just kind of like a writer's choice, or we're just going to try something different. There is always an underlying reason. It's all intentional, and they're forcing it, and it's not for profit, okay? They're not making the story because they know people are going to love it, because it's going to make a lot of money, because it's going to go viral. It's going to become the new character we're going to rally behind. They are hijacking great stories and characters because this ideology, like pushing this kind of woke agenda, will fail on its own. If they didn't attach this to Superman, no one even would talk about it, first of all. And it's still going to, it does two things for them. First of all, it does get the agenda out there, and it also destroys the characters that we know and love that have characteristics that are representative of what our country and our culture is built on. Like, Superman's story is so biblical and American in the way that it's told. It's fantastic. But in case you thought that, maybe it was just someone having a good time and they just wanted to like write a different kind of superhero and put Superman's son, in this case, in a different situation, it's always ideologically driven. So here you go. This is the writer of this comic book talking about it. And he said this is the article, Superman is now bisexual because the writer says, quote, "We don't need another straight white savior." Like, it wasn't because like, hey, it's going to make the story more complex. It's going to really add something to this character. No, it's because I hate straight white men. Like that's literally what it is. And I would never... Like, one of my favorite villains in movie history is Silva from Skyfall. It's fantastic and everything. Like, his sexuality was never the reason why the character was cool. His character was cool, and he happened to have that sexual characteristic. Like, that's the way great stories should be told. There's great female characters that I've loved over the years. It has nothing to do with changing, I'll be so mad at James Bond sex. Like, we'll just make a great female spy movie. And we've tried with Haywire. Oh, no, not Haywire. Haywire was actually pretty decent with Gina Carano, but... that's the other one, and then Salt and a few other ones that was not very good. But let's get into the article here, because I think this is just hilarious. Taylor, the writer, told IGN that he had queer characters and storylines rejected in the past, but he knew he didn't want another straight white male as a superhero. This is his quote. "In the years in the industry, it probably won't surprise you to hear I've had queer characters and storylines rejected. I felt like I was letting people I loved I felt like I was letting down people that I loved every time this happened," Taylor told IGN. "But we are in a very different and much more welcome place today than we were 10 or 5 years ago. It's amazing how fast things change, right? When I was asked if I wanted to write a new Superman with a new #1 for the DC universe, I knew replacing Clark with another straight white savior could be a real opportunity missed. So it wasn't like, yeah, you know what, this story is going to be super complex. It's like, I have a ideological reason for doing this, and I'm going to do it anyway, even though there's no big fan flock to these kind of stories. There's no reason for this to be injected into this. It's literally just, I want to do it regardless of the cost. And that is a scary thing, because he is following the script and the narrative to a T of what he's trying to produce. It does, like I said, it does two things. It destroys a classic story that brings us all together, we all love, that we have community with, that we all know. And so it destroys that, and it also puts this new agenda out there in the world constantly, like telling your kids, this is the way to go. This is the way it's going to be. This is the way the culture is going. So get on board, because even your superheroes are following this script. And it takes a lot of brave people to go off script. It takes a lot of brave people to stand up and be courageous and not bend the knee when it seems like there is no other option. But like we talked about, there is always a cost, and there is always a fantastic reward in the end. I'm Ben Davies, and that was Off Script.